are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me make sure my settings are good. And perfect. Okay, if you can hear me okay, please put a thumbs up or a 1 in the chat. Let me fix this mic for a minute here. Happy Monday. Obviously, breaking news for those that have been following the CEO shooter. The murder of Brian Thompson. Obviously, this has been a big thing everybody's been following. And today there was big news that there was an arrest. And so a lot has come out, even since I've been putting together a show. There's been the mugshot released, the kind of perp walk, and all that. So I am going to break everything as much as I can down. Again, I just want to shout out to everybody here taking the time out of their day to watch the show. It means the world to me. God bless you guys. And of course, huge shout out to my wonderful mods that do an amazing job. I'm going to try to do something before the end of the year where maybe we'll do a mod appreciation. And, if you'd like to donate, we'll do a day either this week or next week. And, if people want to donate, all the donations will just go towards the mods, and then we'll split it up amongst the mods for all their hard work. Because, these mods are so amazing. They don't get paid, and they come in and they make this such an amazing community. And then that also goes along with the people that are here that are in the chat. So thank you to everybody. I know this is kind of a sensitive topic because there are people that believe this guy is kind of like some kind of hero. But at the end of the day, murder, is murder. In cold blood, shooting this guy, even though he was a CEO of a major corporation. He was a father of two, a husband, so there's two kids that are going to grow up without their father, which is, truly terrible. And it's a shame because learning about this guy, Luigi Mangione, I think I pronounced that right. I probably, yeah, I'm trying to read my notes here, but, who was identified earlier today. Now we've learned a whole lot, and I'm sure there's more to come. But this guy was really smart, had a bright future, has done some amazing things, and it's just such a shame to throw that all down the drain. I think there could have been such a better way for him to use, what he has learned to, fight that system in a much better way. But anyway, let's get on with it. Again, for anybody that feels kind of differently, just try to be respectful in chat, because I've been watching other chats and other shows, and I know it's kind of, mixed. And so I just asked everyone to try to be respectful. So what I'm going to do real quickly, we always like to get back by featuring a missing person, especially when it's a high-profile case. We attach, somebody that's missing that obviously is not getting the same attention, just because that's just kind of how it goes. And I am not seeing the file. Where did I put it? Did I put it in? Oh, here she is. Okay, so before we get into the big news and everything, let me just share this missing person. This is Kyria. I think it's Kyria Celestin, who was went missing on December 6th. So that was 3 days ago. She's just 17 years old. She is black, brown eyes, 5'6", 136 pounds. She went missing. Let's see. She's from Key West, Florida, and in the notes it says she went missing in Florida, last seen in the area of 6100 block of 2nd Street in Key West, Florida. Who was last seen wearing a long-sleeved white shirt, blue jean shorts, white sandals, Kyria has long curly hair. If you have any information, you can call 1-800-FL-MISSING, which is 1-888-356-4774. Once again, this is Kyria, missing out of Key West, Florida since the 6th of December. All right, guys, let's get into it. I'm going to play just, I think it's like a 2-minute kind of just up-to-date recap of everything that's been going on. And then I'll kind of shout everybody out as we go through all this. So let me get the video ready here. Actually, that is the wrong folder. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to play this real quick for you guys. This is some highlights from the press conference that was earlier today. There's actually a more recent press conference that was kind of going just before we started this live. So I actually did record most of it. I just tried to capture the highlights because I'd say most of it was probably repetitive. And of course, we know how press conference goes, you know, especially when it's early arrest. They can't give out many details, and they're, you know, people ask questions, and like half of them or majority of them they can't answer. But anyway, here's the press conference where they kind of break down some details. We'll go over the timeline. I've got a bunch of stuff. We'll try to get it in. I tried to get it as chronological order as I could, but here is just kind of the breaking news that happened earlier today for anybody that hasn't heard it. It's just kind of the highlights. It's not the entire press conference. And then we'll get into the timeline, and then how he was arrested, what happened, all that good stuff. And if you can, please hit that like button. God bless you guys. And I will be right back after we play this recap.
Everyone. Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. NYPD detectives are en route to Pennsylvania as we seek to interview the subject further. This apprehension is thanks to the tireless work of the greatest detectives in the world. And of course,
that this gunman stood outside that hotel entrance for about 10 minutes or so, according to sources, was wearing a mask when Thompson was arriving at this hotel for a conference that was expected to happen in the ballroom. We're told by sources telling our John Miller that that gunman fired from about 20 feet away, several shots, hitting Thompson, and then fled, actually ran down a back alley and onto a bicycle. Sources telling me that then took off toward the area of Central Park. Now, you can imagine right now at this stage of the investigation, investigators are pulling video from areas all around here.
Okay. All right, so there's just a little recap here. So let's get over. Let's see. Hold on. Let's pause this.
Skylar, I have to have you
here. Let me move that down here and slide this over here. So I thought it'd be because there's most of you that have followed this channel, and if you're new, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time, again, out of your day to watch this channel. If you can, please subscribe if you like the content. We like to do, visual timelines and stuff. I've got different interviews. I try to put it kind of in a chronological order of kind of what happened. Again, I know the bigger news is, who this guy is, what have we learned about him. There's so much. Everybody's deep diving into, his Instagram, his LinkedIn, tons of stuff. So we're going to touch on a bunch of different things and try to cover as much as I can. Mike says, in my opinion, the credit goes to the employee of McDonald's, not the detectives. Yeah. When they were having that press conference, it was really like, we were boots on the ground, which I do respect that because, they had to go and get surveillance because in the long game, to be able to prosecute this guy, they're going to have to get all the surveillance and the timeline, because this will probably go to a trial. And obviously, the more evidence and timeline that they can put together, is obviously going to help them. But yes, I do agree. Now, there has been some kind of conflicting reports. There is an interview, and I guess I'll just share this now for those that may not heard it. But apparently, because there's been so many conflicting reports, like originally it was said that he was caught, like the employee there had noticed this guy and thought he looked familiar. And then there was mention of him using his ID, and everybody was kind of confused because it's like, why do you need to show your ID at a McDonald's? But, and I knew that there was some kind of miscommunication, and we actually learned that it wasn't actually him using the ID at the McDonald's itself. It was after the cops got there, they asked for an ID, and it was actually one of the fake IDs. And then they noticed he started shaking and getting nervous. And then they're like, oh, we might have our right guy. But there's more to it as well. I won't spoil all of it if you haven't heard it yet. But let me get this situated here. So, again, we'll just quickly kind of go through his timeline first, and then we'll get into all of his stuff. But this all kind of started, he came from Atlanta. Of course, we'll learn his background a little bit later, but he was in Atlanta just before the homicide.
Our viewers, why you chasing this story sent you to Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, to follow up on Anna's reporting there, we know that U.S. Marshals from the Regional Fugitive Task Force, along with other members of the New York Police Department, have been here in Atlanta combing through video evidence from Greyhound bus stations like this one here in the city, trying to see if there is any connection to when the suspect got on the bus and made their way to New York. We know that the bus he was on originated from the city, but law enforcement officials say that they are still trying to figure out at which point exactly he got on the bus, whether that's here in Atlanta or other multiple stops that it takes to get from here to New York City. Also, developments that law enforcement officials say that they are paying attention to is whether that suspect got on another bus to come back here to Atlanta.
Thank you, Buckeye.
Based off of the developments that we are seeing out of Pennsylvania, we haven't necessarily seen any sort of sway in terms of momentum, in terms of law enforcement presence from here in Atlanta to up towards Pennsylvania. We haven't seen many here at this Greyhound station, but we have been through other areas of interest throughout the city to see if law enforcement officials have combed through any particular areas, houses, businesses, to see if there's any sort of surveillance that could potentially connect who they see.
Yeah,
in that
I do have a Venmo, Sparky.
York.
It's in the chat and in the description if you'd like to support this channel. I appreciate it. But thank you so much just for taking the time to be in the show.
Trying to piece together exactly.
Wednesday, December. Again, we're just going over the timeline, but originally he was in Atlanta, which started, I think, in November. I was trying to get the dates, but I was trying to put like 20 things together at the same time. So I like to be very tenacious, and but I couldn't get everything with the dates. But anyway, so he traveled from Atlanta, Georgia, I believe. Greyhound bus is what they believe, and then eventually would make his way to Manhattan.
trying to piece together exactly.
Wednesday, December 4th.
And just before that, before December 4th, he was actually at the hostel. Such a weird name, like just because of the movies I've seen. For those that know the horror movie Hostel, I think they have like two or three of them. But whenever I hear Hostel, it's just because Hostel, just the definition of it, it's just such a weird name for like another kind of a hotel or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, he was actually staying there. I think he got there on November 29th. So he had been there for a few days before this all took place, for anybody that doesn't know. So he was in and out of that hostel for quite a few days.
At around 5 a.m., a suspect was seen on surveillance footage leaving the area near the Frederick Douglass Houses project on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. At around 6:17 a.m., photos released by the NYPD shows the hooded suspect at a Starbucks located at West 56th Street and 6th Avenue, less than 2 blocks from where the killing will take place.
Yeah.
At around 6:30, the suspect is seen in a surveillance video obtained by ABC7 talking on a cell phone while walking east on West 54th Street toward the New York Hilton Midtown.
That's definitely got to be a burner phone, but they claim that. I believe they claim that they found a phone. They haven't said if it's his or not, and then the water bottle, which is very interesting. Which I think on the water bottle they had a partial fingerprint, so that could be huge. That also depends on if they can get some DNA, because obviously now with him, they can get DNA from him. Now it just depends on if there anything that was involved in the homicide itself that he used. Was there any kind of DNA that he left? I'm really surprised he's not wearing gloves.
At around 6:40 a.m., the suspect lingers outside of the Hilton, located on 6th Avenue between 53rd and 54th Streets, for around 5 minutes.
Oh my God, Jason.
At around 6:44 a.m., Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, leaves towards the entrance of the Hilton across the street, where he was to attend an investors conference. At around 6:45 a.m., the suspect steps out behind Thompson and opens fire, shooting him in the back. The gun appears to jam multiple times, but the shooter calmly fixes it and continues firing his gun. Between 6:45
and he ended up leaving a couple shell casings that actually, I don't know, I forget if he just wrote like on a marker or what, but he engraved, deny and depose, which goes with the whole, thing with the deny, I forget the deny, defend, delay or something like that. Sending a message clearly.
And 6:48 a.m., the suspect flees, getting onto an electric bike on 55th Street and 6th Avenue, and rides north toward Central Park.
Yeah.
Surveillance footage captures the suspect riding the bike into Center Drive at 59th Street. Just before 7 a.m., CBS News reports to have seen footage appearing to show the suspect cycling out of the park on West 85 Street. At approximately 7:12 a.m., Brian Thompson is pronounced dead at Sinai West Hospital on 10th Avenue. The next day on, Thursday, December 5th, the public would finally get to see new surveillance photos released of the suspect without his mask on.
And people have been making jokes because, he's Italian or Italian descent, and, something with flirting and him, pulling down his mask to smile and flirt, But they said they tried to do facial recognition, but because his face was kind of to the side, they couldn't quite do a typical facial recognition because of the angle his head was at, which is interesting. Thank you, June. I hope you're doing well.
The
God
images
bless
were
you.
taken at the New
Happy
York
holidays to
International
you and your
AIH
family.
hostel on Amsterdam Avenue and 103rd Street, where police believe he might have stayed before the shooting. There has been new developments in the case, such as multiple witnesses who may have stayed with the suspect prior to the shooting when staying at the hostel.
So reports say that when he was there, I don't know how many other roommates were there. I've never stayed at a hostel, but I heard there can be up to like 6 to 12 people in a room. That sounds crazy. But I get it if you trying to save money, downtown New York, kind of makes sense. But from what they say, he didn't really interact with the other people, which, he was pretty quiet. At least that's initial reports. And he was there, like I said, I'd seen the date, November 29th. Now, it would be, 5 days later until he actually committed the homicide. So maybe he was, maybe doing some, reconnaissance or whatever, research and all that stuff.
Potential sources of DNA and other ID info. Authorities found a phone and a bottle of water near the scene of the shooting. These items might have belonged to the gunman and may have been dropped as he left the shooting scene. The words delay and depose were found on a live round and shell casing tied to the shooter. Law enforcement are exploring whether the words indicate a motive, pointing to a popular phrase in the insurance industry. Delay, deny, defend.
About an hour and 20 minutes before the start of the conference, is there any indication that he was going to meet someone? Because it's pretty early. Is he on his way to meet someone there at the conference?
He leaves the hotel dressed like he's going to be attending the conference. We're working with his co-workers and other people.
Okay, I'm going to skip this part forward here. And here's just kind of his movements out of the park. Here is some new released footage that we haven't seen, which is interesting. This would be looking at the timestamp up here. Obviously, this is the murderer was at 6:30, so this is about. Looks like it says 6:19, so maybe 10 minutes before, 10, 20 minutes, somewhere around in there before the homicide. What's interesting is I tried to zoom in, but he actually places something down. So I don't know if this is like the water bottle or the phone that he might have tried to ditch in this trash. Like I said, this just came out, and I'll zoom it in. Whatever it is, it's small, and I don't see a water bottle in his hand. But clearly he throws something out, and clearly he's got his hands on it, so I would think whatever he tossed could have DNA on it. Again, I'm so surprised with all the prep that he had doing this. I'm just blown away he's not wearing gloves. Again, not to condone his actions, but, with how much planning was involved in this, I'm really surprised he's not wearing gloves. Liz says, hostel doesn't require a credit card to book. Yep, yeah, because hotels, because, if there's damages or anything like that. Sorry, I'm just looking at the video one more time. But yeah, you can't really see anything. But he does toss something.
So what were the words? And I'm told the cell phone was recovered in an alleyway on his escape route. Does that appear to be connected to the suspect?
We're working through that cell phone. Obviously, we'll be processed.
He just needed an ID, possibly 20. Oh, so they just have a cash deposit. Yeah, that makes sense. Because, yeah, a lot of these places, like to have a deposit just in case if you tear up the room or something.
It forensically, and as far as words being exchanged, we do not have audio of the incident. We only have the regular video.
All right, we'll skip
Nothing
ahead
well,
here.
there's one witness standing right next to the victim when he was shot. We're still trying to identify that victim. that witness. Like
Kirsten
I said,
says this
we're
is
reaching
new
out
footage
to
I've seen
law
it
enforcement in Minnesota,
Saturday.
and we're also
The
interviewing
one where he's
his
walking to
co-workers
throw
and family
the
members
thing
to
away.
see if
Oh,
there have
that's
been any
interesting.
specific
Maybe I
threats
missed
against him
that.
in the past. As far as who is he in the hotel with, we're doing a search warrant in his hotel room right now. That might lead us, give us some more information.
According
that
to
was
the wife
something
of Thompson,
newer.
she claims that her husband had been receiving threats prior to the shooting, likely due to the quote of lack of coverage.
I'm assuming they probably get a lot of
There
threats.
is a reward for the
you know?
information leading to the suspect responsible for the shooting of Brian Thompson. Please smash the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Okay, so now
good to be with you.
we're about to get to the arrest and everything and the perp walk and all that, but this is just one last clip just before, the arrest here, but this is where they had found the backpack for anybody that, I just wanted to kind of cover everything. But, he ditched his backpack in Central Park, I believe on purpose because, I'll just play the clip.
Some new reporting from our own Jonathan Deans that the backpack that was recovered in Central Park yesterday by authorities was found, but what authorities did not find in it was the gun belonging to the person of interest or the shooter in this case. However, authorities telling us that they did find a jacket. What's unclear at this time is whether that was the jacket that was seen worn by that individual during the time of the shooting. Sources telling us what they did find in there as well was some Monopoly money. Now, the NYPD sources also telling us that they have officers in Central Park today, right now, searching that area, canvassing, seeing if they can find any more clues or information that might tell us a little bit more about this person of interest. And again, at this point, officials telling us they don't believe that person of interest is in New York City. They believe, after the last known images of him at the bus terminal, they believe he may be out of the city. We do know that authorities are working multi-state, multi-agencies with sources in Atlanta, tracking any kind of camera to find any information about this person of interest. You'll also remember that at this point, authorities have not identified this person of interest. Earlier today, Mayor Eric Adams saying, look, the net may be closing in. We want this individual not just off the streets of New York.
Welcome back to the channel, where we cover true crime mystery to the missing.
Okay.
Today's video, we are going over.
All right, so now we're going to get into Luigi Mangione.
5 shocking things we've learned about the CEO shooter, Luigi Mangione. Number 5, caught while eating at McDonald's.
So obviously they've been trying to track him. They knew that he had taken a Greyhound, but then of course they didn't know exactly where he went. And then this morning he ended up getting off Greyhound bus and stopping at this McDonald's. And I'll talk about this here in a second because I've done Greyhound. I don't know if anybody's done Greyhound in the chat. Let me know. It was the worst experience of my life. Well, not the worst experience, but it's up there. It's probably like in my top 5. It was, I could do a whole video on my travels with Greyhound from Utah to Ohio. It was an absolute nightmare. But what's interesting is there was places that we, because we'd have to take stops, because my trip alone was a 24-hour trip, which actually turned into about almost a 48-hour trip because it was just an absolute nightmare. But anyway, not to get sidetracked, but there was places that we stopped at, which I thought was very interesting. So anyway, here is what allegedly happened.
Luigi Mangione was on a Greyhound bus traveling through Altoona on Monday morning, sources said. When he got off and walked into a McDonald's where a witness recognized him from the images of the suspect circulated by police. What's interesting is Greyhound buses tend to make stops along their route to allow the passengers to get some food and stretch. One of the more popular places they stop at is McDonald's. Mangione had a ghost gun capable of firing a 9mm round and a suppressor, police said. The gun and suppressor were consistent with the weapon used in the murder, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said. The gun.
So, according to this, I've seen several articles. This is allegedly the weapon that they recovered from on his person. Again, I've seen it from multiple sources, so I'm assuming this is the piece. Oh, this looks like more like a real gun. But again, I'm not a big gun person, so maybe there is obviously signs of it being a 3D model printout of a gun. But allegedly, this is what they recovered along with some other items.
And may have been made on a 3D printer, police said. Along with fake IDs, a passport, Mangione also had a 3-page manifesto, which they claim gives details about his motivation.
So here is the perp walk that was released about, I don't know, an hour or two ago, at least from what I've seen on Twitter. It's not very long, just a few short seconds here, but here he is. That got cut off. Oh, you know what? I've got it. I show the whole thing here in just a second. I think what I was trying to do is, I was, like I said, I was in a rush because I was making 2 videos at the same time. So anyway, this is his travels. Obviously, we kind of went over this, but I just want to go to where he was last seen at the Port Authority bus facility, at least on surveillance, and boarding a bus, likely a Greyhound, which then he would head west, which is here. Now, the blue line is if you were traveling by car, so this may not have been the exact route that he took, because I know if you look up the bus routes, they're different. But either way, he would end up at this McDonald's here in Altoona. And we'll learn about what exactly went down, because there was a lot of kind of some, I wouldn't say like misinformation. I think it was just kind of twisted because it wasn't fully understood at the time, because a lot of people kept thinking, why did he need an ID for... There's the purple walk there. Yep, no serial numbers, right.
True at the...
And what's also interesting is I guess it's harder for them. I'm no gun expert, but I think it's like harder for them to actually like match the bullet to the gun or something like that. I could be wrong on that. Maybe somebody knows in the chat that could explain that better. But I heard that could cause some kind of issue because it's a 3D printed gun.
Fairgrounds in Butler. And
CEO of United Healthcare. This briefing is in Pennsylvania. How long he's been in Altoona.
Who did what Governor...
Okay, so here is kind of her talking about what happened, because again, there was kind of multiple stories, and she kind of breaks it down, because it actually, it was not only just the customer, or not only the employee, but apparently a customer as well.
Shapiro called, the right thing to do. He stressed how disturbing it has been to see the backlash or even support for what happened on social media, and applauded the actions of these 2 witnesses and, of course, of the police who showed up, and there was no violence involved. How they described what went on is, of course, that moment where you have the police approaching him, showing a fake ID, them telling him, have you been in New York recently, after they asked him to see his mask. And when he started shaking, after he had shown the fake ID, they ran the ID, realized that it wasn't real. Then he revealed himself and said he was Luigi Mangione. What's interesting here is that he is facing here in Pennsylvania the charges for illegal gun possession, for having this...
Sorry, I was reading a comment. Did she explain this? Let me make sure.
They asked him to see his mask and
Wait, let me back it up just a little bit. I'm sorry, I was reading chat.
applauded the actions of these two witnesses and, of course, of the police who showed up, and there was no violence involved. How they described what went on is, of course, that moment where you have the police approaching, him showing.
So I don't know, maybe she mentioned that and I just didn't go back for enough, but so what allegedly happened is there was actually a customer that was there that kind of thought this guy looked familiar and then notified the employee, and then the employee had called law enforcement. So that's what they're claiming. So it might be two people involved, maybe getting the reward. Who knows? I think there was either a 50K or 60K reward on that.
A fake ID, them telling him, have you been in New York recently after?
And then now the ID makes sense. I knew it was kind of some kind of, it kind of got twisted because everybody's wondering like why does he need to show the ID at McDonald's? So now the ID was actually shown when the officers arrived. Obviously, that would be one of the first things they would ask. And then after asking, were you in New York? Then they noticed that he was acting strange and nervous and red flags.
They asked him to see his mask, and when he started shaking, after he had shown the fake ID, they ran the ID, realized that it wasn't real. Then he revealed himself and said he was Luigi Mangione. What's interesting here is that he is facing here in Pennsylvania the charges for illegal gun possession, for having this ghost gun without a permit, as well as
hey Leslie, Billy, good to see you.
Documents, basically that fake ID, for misrepresenting himself to authorities, and of course for other items that were found in his possession that were related to the crime. One of the questions that everybody's wondering is how long will it take for New York to file charges, but more importantly, for him to be extradited. There's two things that can happen here. He could waive his extradition and he will go to New York and face those homicide charges, or he could contest the extradition, at which point there would be other paperwork, wealthy family from a wealthy background, and he's fighting this fight.
Held in Altoona on.
Okay, so here is them talking a little bit more about what was recovered, and then we'll get into the background of Luigi here, which again, it's really a shame because this guy was, really intelligent, into, some really prestigious programs.
Potential gun charges, illegally being in possession of this gun. Remember, there are federal laws about ghost guns and silencers, and apparently he was in possession of a ghost gun with a silencer, potentially illegally. That's what they're holding him on now. By now, the NYPD will have gotten to Altoona. They are likely there, and there's paperwork. He has to appear at a summons in Altoona before the extradition happens. The U.S. Marshals are involved. He will be transported.
What would the time frame be on that?
It could be in the next couple of days. It's unclear, but he's also going to be getting a lawyer. He has a right to counsel, as Ricky Kleeman just said. So there are a lot of different parts of this picture that have to come together, and that can take some time. Even though
I've seen that as well, June.
That's put him in front of a jury, but it doesn't really work like that.
Have been talking about it, but can you reiterate everything that was found on his person?
Yes, of course. When he was apprehended in that McDonald's in Altoona, he had a bag. He was in possession of a jacket that matched the jacket that he was wearing during the shoot.
This is what blows me away, is he got this far away, and obviously all these pictures that have been circulating. Now, I'm assuming maybe he's not had a phone with him, which, obviously would be smart because he can't be tracked, unless he had a separate burner phone. But I'm just blown away that he would still be wearing this jacket. Like, he's basically wearing, according to what it sounds like, he's basically wearing the same stuff that has been, plastered everywhere throughout the, more or less, nationwide through the world. And so obviously people have seen this. And then the mask, because apparently he wasn't wearing the one that's under the coat here where it just kind of goes up, but he was wearing kind of more of that, the blue mask. And honestly, I think that was probably what's interesting is I wonder if they just recognized him because of the mask. And, he does have those bushy eyebrows that really kind of stand out. Again, I thought he would, by this point, I thought he would have clearly changed his appearance. I am really blown away with how much thought was put into the actual homicide itself. And then now he's still traveling with, again, is it the same gun that was used in the murder, or is this a separate weapon? I know someone asked about a ghost gun. D just answered that. Thank you, D. Yeah. It's crazy, the 3D printers, what they can do. It is kind of disturbing. Yeah, Kohlberger eyebrows. Yeah, they're very prominent. Especially when you're wearing a mask, what's going to stick out is the parts of the face that you can see, and those eyebrows. I mean, he's probably more recognizable with the mask and those eyebrows, and yeah.
He had a computer that is now being forensically analyzed. He was in possession of a ghost gun with a silencer, capable of firing 9mm rounds.
Yeah, who knows? It's
and
possible,
just said at the presser,
Lar.
he also was in possession of the very same fake New Jersey ID that was used.
So here's the ID, or at least one of them, that got released. They did kind of block this out. I meant to block this, but it's not a big deal because it's not a real address. What's interesting is if you type in the address, everything's right except for the 128. I think there's like a 126 and there's numbers before and after, but there's no exactly 128. So it looks like he was going by a Mark Rosario, and butcher that.
To check into the hostel on the Upper West Side.
I want to go back to Tom Hansen, who is still outside of New York City Hall. Tom, what has been the reaction to this news that you've been following?
Yeah, well, over the last several days, really what we've seen is...
Gave 4-star review Unabomber manifesto.
So now to learn a little bit more about his background, and then there was another live press conference that happened, I don't know, roughly 2 hours ago, approximately, where I grabbed the highlights because a lot of it was kind of repetitive. And of course, again, like I said earlier, those press conferences, a lot of times, especially when it's early days, they can't really, give out a lot of details. And of course, the press ask kind of the same questions. And of course, they kind of get denied.
On Goodreads, the book review website.
But here, apparently, he gave a 4-star review to the notorious Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. And here is his thoughts on the manifest of Ted Kaczynski.
A profile associated with Luigi Mangione gave 4 stars to Industrial Society and its Future, a writing that is generally known as Ted Kaczynski's Manifesto. The account posted a review that states, "It's easy to quickly and thoughtless write this off as the manifesto of a lunatic, in order to avoid facing some of the uncomfortable problems it identifies. But it's simply impossible to ignore how prescient many of his predictions about modern society turned out." Number 3, born in Baltimore and lived in Hawaii.
So now to kind of go with his upbringing, obviously this guy came from a family that, had
According to a LinkedIn profile, Mangione was most recently an employee of a Santa Monica, California .tech firm that offers a buying and selling platform for cars. His profile lists Honolulu, Hawaii as his location. Mangione had learned to code in high school and helped start a club at Penn for people interested in gaming and game design, according to a 2018 story in Penn Today, a campus publication. University of Pennsylvania spokesperson confirmed Mr. Mangione graduated in 2020. with both a bachelor's degree in computer science and a master's degree in computer and information science. Number 2, Mangione was an AI expert. Mangione's major area of study at Penn was artificial intelligence, according to his LinkedIn profile. His minor was mathematics. His experience also lists jobs as an artificial intelligence teaching assistant for gifted high school students. Mangione also worked as an intern for a company that fixed UI bugs in the popular video game Civilization VI. He worked there for over 1 year, according to this bio. Number 1. He was the valedictorian in 2016.
So again, I mean, this guy had just quite the education, which is truly just tragic because I clearly there could have been, better ways that he could have used his intelligence to, fight this higher power and, a much more responsible way than, just going out and murdering somebody in cold blood, which, again, I know people think he's a hero, but, what message does that send to, future people that may look at this as like, oh, this is what we need to do. And then where does it stop, where people start taking out CEOs left and right, but they're just going to get replaced and, just inciting violence. At the end of the day, we're just inciting violence, and that's how we solve our problems. At the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to, and that's not the right message. And it's a shame because he's a smart kid. It's just truly tragic.
Mangione attended Gilman, the private all-boys school in Baltimore. From 2012 to 2016, the school has confirmed. According to his profile on LinkedIn, he graduated as valedictorian. After high school, he received an undergraduate degree and a Master's of Science from the University of Pennsylvania.
Had a brain, yeah.
Here's a short clip from Mangione speaking as the valedictorian.
I'm honored to be speaking to you all today on behalf of the Gilman class of 2016.
So this is not the whole thing. I think there's like 12 to 16 minutes of this. This is about 4 minutes of it. I just played just a little highlight for anybody that may have not seen this, but there is a full clip.
When I started writing the speech, I talked with several students and teachers and asked how they would describe the class of 2016. Many of the students characterized our class as inventive, in both imagination and initiative. At the same time, several teachers reminded me of our class's commitment to Gilman and its traditions. I came to realize that both views are correct. The class of 2016 is truly defined by its inventive, pioneering mentality that accompanies a strong commitment to Gilman tradition. Throughout its time here at Gilman, the class of 2016 has been coming up with new ideas and challenging the world around it. Our selling of Chick-fil-A during lunch, arguably the staple of our class, provides a great example. In our sophomore year, when brainstorming ways to fundraise, we didn't just settle for the usual methods of selling spirit shirts and Christmas trees. In addition to this, we did what seemed impossible given the tight schedule of the school day and began shuttling dozens of Chick-fil-A sandwiches to Gilman between assembly and lunch. Soon, we were selling over 100 Chick-fil-A sandwiches each day, in what became likely one of the most successful class fundraisers in Gilman's history.
Okay, so I didn't want to show a lot of the other side with people promoting, his actions, but I just wanted to show this because I just came across this clip just to kind of show, the other side of how people, have been kind of, celebrating and promoting this guy as a hero, and there was look-alike contests that were going on, and then there's this guy with the TikTok video, and he gets in the car with his mother. I don't know a lot of the context to it, as most TikTok videos, but I just thought it was interesting to show because, oh my God, he looks just like him. Especially with the jacket.
Jake, go back. Change. No green jacket, no hood. This is serious now. A lot of people have been DMing me, messaging me.
I mean, look at him. I mean, with the eyebrows, the smile, the jacket, and then there's his mom like, what the hell?
You have to go back and change. This is not funny. Are you listening to me? This is not a funny situation. Please listen to me. Jake. Oh my God.
He's
what?
not taking
What
it
do
serious.
you understand? Oh my God. Let him live. Crime. You need to go home and change. Do you
The person that it was done to did a lot worse, okay? To the entire country.
I'm not negating
To the
that.
entire country.
I agree with you. However, there are 2 jackets in the back. Put one of them on. Jake, I'm going to not go where you want to go. I'm not driving you. Put the jacket on in the back now.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is creepy to think that,
Senior
there's that
Special
stuff going on.
Supervisory Agent Szabo from the FBI.
So this is now the press conference that was released. I just talked about this a minute ago, 2-3 hours ago, where they shared a little bit more details, not a lot. I just tried to get the highlights for you guys here. Yeah, Blackwater says, yeah, slap him. Yeah.
Police. I want to thank
terrible.
Senior Special Supervisory Agent Szabo from the FBI and acknowledge here in Altoona acted swiftly. I want to say a special thanks to Officer Tyler Fry and law enforcement. We have and Pittsburgh making stops in between, obviously here in Altoona this morning, and help law enforcement here in Pennsylvania as we continue with our investigation. You'll see photos of the suspect who is here, and you should know that this suspect traveled between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, making stops in between, obviously here in Altoona. I want to ask all of our fellow Pennsylvanians to help us with any tips that they might have by contacting us at 800-4PA-TIPS. Again, that number is 800.
Yep, I saw that, Angie.
It's
crazy.
The suspect was just arraigned here in the courthouse, and presumably New York will file charges very, very soon. That process will continue to play out, and justice will be delivered in this case. This case is hinged on attention. In fact, the attention in this case and the killing of Brian Thompson was helpful, no doubt, in allowing us to capture this killer, in alerting that individual at McDonald's this morning, and then having that individual contact police. But some attention in this case, especially online, has been deeply disturbing, as some have looked to celebrate instead of condemning this killer. Brian Thompson was a father to 2. He was a husband, and he was a friend to many. And yes, he was the CEO of a health insurance company. In America, we do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint on this.
Yeah, because what scares me is, the ramping up of all these school shootings and everything, and I can't imagine what it is to be a parent in this day and age with kids in school and all that, happening. When I was in school, the only thing that ever happened was Columbine. I lived in Utah. That happened in the neighboring state, Colorado. And of course, that was very traumatic. And then we had a bomb scare literally like the day after, or that same week after that happened. And, it was absolutely terrifying. Luckily, obviously it was a fake bomb threat, but just after that happened, it was very scary and chaotic. But, again, this is trying to promote that, you know, to solve our answers, that we're just going to go out and eliminate people, which, again, I think there's better ways to fight the system.
He is no hero. Continues about this case. Let's be mindful not to dehumanize him and make him just an avatar of a system that is disliked by many. He was a father, he was a husband, and he did not deserve to die like this
Mafia written
on the
all over
sidewalk
it.
in New York City. I again want to thank all law enforcement who's present here.
Attorney's office today in record time to assist us at the Altoona Police Department. And as the governor stated, the state police, the Altoona Police Department, the FBI, the New York City Police Department, Logan Township Police Department, the Blair County Sheriff's Department, and other agencies all worked together today to do what needed to be done to seek justice. I often brag about how the community in Blair County isn't afraid to say something, to report a crime, to contact local law enforcement. And I've often touted how they've made their community, whether it be Altoona or somewhere else.
Thank you, Mr. DA. On behalf of the men and women behind me, the detectives, county lines, the message is very clear. Police Commissioner.
Sure. So it was a peaceful arrest, first and foremost.
So again, I was trying to skip to just the stuff that we haven't heard, because I think it was like 20 minutes or something like that, and I would say probably at least half of it was really just stuff we've heard before or questions that they couldn't answer. But there are a couple things the arresting officer did kind of speak to it, which I think they're going to show here in just a second.
Almost.
I thought it was kind of interesting.
The officer quickly recognized the male as the suspect from the shooting. And within several seconds of the first contact, he had asked the suspect if he had been in New York City recently.
Yeah,
and
I do
really
wonder.
invoked a physical reaction from the suspect. He became visibly nervous, kind of shaking at that question, and he didn't really answer it directly. So that statement alone really said a lot, and the suspect didn't have to say a lot after that question to show that, you know, he was very nervous at that point.
Was that the officer that the governor mentioned who's new on the job, who was involved in that?
Yes, so Officer Fry's here to my left. Officer Fry, you step this way a little bit. And then his partner that he was with, Officer Joe Detweiler.
Officer, could you maybe identify yourself and maybe describe?
So this is apparently the officer that responded to McDonald's here. And he talks a little bit about the interaction. Obviously, there's not a lot, but it's interesting.
That whole interaction and what played out? Spell your name.
Yeah, Patrolman Fry, Tylerfrye. So whenever we got on scene there, we were able to pretty much find where he was at in the restaurant. And as soon as he was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, we asked him to pull it down.
I want to say 26.
Me and my partner and I recognized him immediately, just from what we saw in the media with photos, videos. We just didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy, but he was very cooperative with us. Didn't really give us too many issues. Once we found out his identity, we took it from there.
How does it feel with 6 months on the job as a law enforcement officer to be part of
I can't say I was expecting it by any means, but it feels good to get a guy like that off the street, especially starting my career this way. It feels great.
Sir, upon his arrest, has he made any statements since his arrest? Has he asked for a lawyer yet?
To my knowledge, he hasn't made any statements.
How long was he staying in Altoona, and where was he staying? And then was the gun on himself, or was it in like a car somewhere?
We are still investigating how long he's been in Altoona. There's still a lot of follow-up to do in this case. Again, the men and women behind me are assisting with that. So we're still looking into it.
I'm going to ask Lieutenant Colonel Bivens of the Pennsylvania State Police to address the question you just raised.
Thank you.
So there are a lot of things that need to be followed up yet in this investigation. Certainly, there were a number of items that were found on his person, in his backpack, that have been inventoried. We've begun to do an analysis of some of those. There were written documents. There are electronic devices that are in the process of being downloaded. Search warrants are obtained.
So, yeah, there again, just kind of recapping for those that may kind of came in late. He had apparently a 3-page manifesto, which, again, we still don't know all the details. What they're saying, early reports, obviously this could definitely change, but they claim that it just kind of details his mindset. People have asked, is there more targets on this list? I think they said no, but I do wonder if there was more on there, that they probably wouldn't want to say that just to not incite some kind of, panic. But again, I'm sure eventually we'll find out.
So over the next hours and days, those
yes,
efforts
they
will
did,
continue,
Leslie.
and we're going to take a closer look at all of the information that we can glean from that regarding his activities up until and during the time of the homicide, his flight from New York, and we know that he has been in Pennsylvania, for several days. And so part of that investigation will also focus on trying to retrace his steps. We've already identified businesses, for example, that he frequented in this area and activities that he engaged in. That led us to more evidence. And so all of that is becoming kind of a mountain of evidence that has to be analyzed and looked at.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm assuming he's had to have visited certain areas between his travels from New York to the Altoona, Pennsylvania, and perhaps surveillance and maybe items he could have touched that they could recover, because obviously DNA would be, I'm sure, huge for them to, link him to the case. Obviously, if anyone missed it earlier, it's been reported multiple times. There was a water bottle that he allegedly ditched, and they found a partial thumbprint or fingerprint on it. So who knows if maybe they can, after getting his fingerprints and DNA, could they possibly connect that water bottle?
I'm confident we'll have a much better idea of his activities over the past number of days in New York and in Pennsylvania. Additionally, we're also trying to determine that we don't have another actor or an accomplice out there. And so this information will all be used to help us prove or disprove whether that exists and whether there were any other intended targets. So a lot of questions that are out there that are unanswered yet.
Yeah, 26.
But we have a lot of information that we can examine that hopefully will give us some of those pieces of data that we need. Someone asked about the interview. He was initially cooperative. He is not now. And so he has been arraigned and transported and will be securely.
And how long does it take? Thank you.
So that answer depends. Once the charging documents are filed in the state of New York, we will file a fugitive justice complaint against the defendant. He'll be brought before a common pleas judge shortly thereafter, and the defendant will be presented with the option to waive his extradition or to contest his extradition. If he waives his extradition, we of course will make him available to the NYPD and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office as soon as we're able to arrange his transportation there in the very near future for homicide.
Any insight into your measures? Sorry, sir, can I just ask? In terms of the officer's investigation of this case, can you say any more about a suspected possible motive?
So at this point, we're not going to comment on that. I mentioned that there is a lot of information to go through. Certainly everything has been or will be shared with NYPD, but there is other information that really doesn't even pertain to that investigation that, again, focuses more on his activities here in Pennsylvania and other travels. So all of that hopefully will shine more light on it. There is some.
How you think this works?
Well, again, I'll jump in as it's all part of the ongoing investigation. And so, yes, we do have a good idea how he got from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, but there are some gaps in time. And so before we start laying out a timeline of his travel, we really need to work through all of that. And so we know that at some point it is likely he was in a variety of locations across the state, to include Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and points in between.
And then Altoona, so Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and then he made his way back to
Again, that'll all be part of the, logically, he's caught here in Altoona, so logically he was in those locations first. But again, the timeline of all of that will be part of the ongoing investigation.
So basically, they're trying to get, because they've got a lot of the surveillance from the day of the murder, a pretty good timeline and surveillance footage. I'm sure they're still trying to get more, the more, obviously for building a case. But then from him traveling from New York to Altoona, they want to see if they can get surveillance and his travels, and obviously put together a timeline just like, we see happen time and time again in these types of cases.
What was that detection for several days? Obviously, he was caught at McDonald's this morning. Guy's got to eat. For the past few days, he's been on the run.
Thank you so much for listening, Billy. God bless you. I hope you're doing well, staying warm.
I think, again, as part of this point, again, I've spoken generally about what's there, but at this point, everything remains under investigation, and we'll have much more information, and New York will certainly have information for you in the future.
How confident are you this is the suspect? Is there still a search for any other suspects other than the accomplice or potential accomplice?
We're still going to canvass. We're still going to investigate. Like I said before,
Was it the one on Plank Road?
So in my opinion, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I don't think he had help. I think he would have kept this pretty quiet because, it seems like he has a fairly extended family. And I not to say it, it's not possible. But to me, it sounds like he went and did this. This is all him doing the research. But who knows? We could be blindsided, and there could be possible other accomplices.
I'm not familiar with the address of that. It's a McDonald's, but someone to check it out further. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, did I say the employee? The customer recognized, notified an employee, and wanted someone to check it out further.
Yeah, there was a theory, Alan, about Brian just hiring the hitman himself. Because there was actually early days, there was, I forget who it was, but somebody came on a talk show host talking about, that being a possible theory, as apparently it has happened before, possibly, insurance money involved and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there are some obviously there's some major rabbit holes. I didn't get a chance to really dig into those rabbit holes. I may do a separate video tomorrow, seeing if I can dig into, the rabbit holes, not getting too wild into them, but at least kind of point some of the bigger ones out and, that have some kind of evidence or weight to them anyway.
Which restaurant it was? Was it the one on Plank Road?
I'm not familiar with the address of that. It's a McDonald's, but.
Hey, Jazzy, Nerd Girl. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well, sweetie.
Again, we're not going to talk about what was found in the bag. We have accurately cataloged everything that was in there, and that'll be a matter for the future.
DA Weeks, could you repeat what you said in court about that money?
I certainly stand by all the comments I made at the preliminary arraignment, but I'm not going to comment anymore on the evidence at this time. My comments at preliminary arraignment were in support of my argument for bail. Thank you.
Political differences were to address a substantive difference and saved other lives. That was true at the fairgrounds in Butler. And
CEO of United Healthcare. This briefing is in Pennsylvania. How long he's been in Altoona.
Who did what Governor Shapiro called, the right thing to do.
So one thing I wanted to mention, just from experiences that I had, so clearly he took a Greyhound bus, and maybe this was his last stop in Altoona, and maybe there was more, but from my experience with Greyhound, which again I talked about earlier, that it's one of my top 5 worst experiences I've ever in my life, and maybe I'll do a members video on it because it is wild. I literally thought I was going to be murdered, left in the middle of nowhere. Robbed, you name it. It was terrible. Greyhound, I don't want to poop on them, but it was the worst experience. It absolutely terrible. But long story short, even though there's a lot of story I could tell just in my experience, but what was interesting is, so I had a very long trip, but it got delayed, so it actually took even much longer because it was just a complete mess. But what they would do, because obviously you're driving for long periods of time, and after 10 or 12 hours or whatever, they would stop at certain places, and usually what's interesting is they stopped at McDonald's, and yeah, from what I'm looking back at, I can't remember exactly how many stops we had. I want to say at least 5 stops, maybe more. And I would say 4 out of the 5 were McDonald's, which was interesting. That way people could get off the bus, stretch, and then get food. But I thought it was very interesting. Majority were McDonald's. And so I thought that was interesting that, he just got off this Greyhound bus and he's at McDonald's. I don't think that's a coincidence. And, being on that bus ride for how long, who knows how long he was on until he got into Altoona, and then they probably, I'm just assuming, I don't know for 100%, but I'm assuming they probably stopped at McDonald's. And then if that was kind of like your stop, then you just kind of, stayed there. And then the bus, the Greyhound bus then continues after being there for, anywhere from 15 to a half an hour. Just kind of depends on, the passengers and, how long they're taking there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm just blown away with all the prep that he put in. That how did he not ditch that very famous outfit that he's been seen in? How he did not get rid of that, and all this different stuff. Like, I would have shaved my eyebrows, maybe not all the way, but clearly those things are pretty thick. They stand out, especially when you have a mask on. Those are very prominent. But again, if you missed it earlier, it was a customer who first alerted to what looked like a suspect and then told the employee there. That's allegedly the story coming out. We'll check on Twitter here. Let me get to chat here. Again, if you would like to support the channel, there's many ways to do so. I got Patreon, obviously memberships, Venmo and stuff like that. If you would like to support the channel, they're in the description as well as in chat. If by chance you do like a Venmo or PayPal, if you could let my mods know so I can shout you out. But Teresa Moore says, keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Teresa. I am going to be doing some short videos tomorrow. Good to see you, Carolyn. I hope you're doing well. She is the one who alerted me about the arrest earlier today. I was at the doctor's office just with my monthly checkup. Of course, I swear, a lot of times when I go to my doctor's appointment, something goes down, and it takes me hours before I can get back to my apartment to, put everything together here. I don't know if I can read this, Leslie, but I see your comment there. He was the president of Greyhound Bus for years until he passed away. Never met him. Oh, wow. That sounds like quite a story. I'm sure a lot of people have been on Greyhound have got some wild stories. Again, I'll have to do just a video on my experience because it is wild. So, and this is such an ironic photo, here he is, with a little Happy Meal box here. And then, of course, he gets caught at a McDonald's. Just wild. I'm going to play part of his speech just for a minute while I look up Twitter and see if I can pull a few things out. And if anybody knows in chat, there's some breaking headlines that
Great. Gilman's 116th
you'd like me to
Founders
cover, let me know.
I'm honored to be speaking to you all today on behalf of the Gilman class
here
of
that's playing
2016.
for just a second, guys.
When I started writing the speech, I talked with several students and teachers and asked how they would describe the class of 2016. Many of the students characterized our class as inventive, in both imagination and initiative. At the same time, several teachers reminded me of our class's commitment to Gilman and its traditions. I came to realize that both views are correct. The class of 2016 is truly defined by its inventive, pioneering mentality that accompanies a strong commitment to Gilman tradition. Throughout its time here at Gilman, the class of 2016 has been coming up with new ideas and challenging the world around it. Our selling of Chick-fil-A during lunch, arguably the staple of our class, provides a great example.
Okay, so I got something
In our
interesting
sophomore year,
about his
when brainstorming
surgery.
ways to fundraise, we didn't just settle for the usual methods of selling spirit shirts and Christmas trees. In addition to this, we did what seemed impossible given the tight schedule of the school day and began shuttling dozens of Chick-fil-A sandwiches to Gilman between assembly and lunch. Soon, we were selling over 100 Chick-fil-A sandwiches each day, in what became likely one of the most successful class fundraisers in Gilman's history. But our ability to come up with new ideas didn't start then.
We'll check that out here in a second.
I've noticed it as long as I've been here, even in my very first year as a sixth grader. If any of you have ever been on Gilman's campus before school starts, you would have noticed that every morning, rain or shine, the turf is filled with middle school students playing soccer, football, and frisbee. That tradition was actually started by the class of 2016. As many of you know, Gilman Middle School offers not one, but 2 recesses per day. But for the class of 2016, that wasn't enough. So, as sixth graders, rather than sitting in the hallways waiting for school to begin, we decided we'd give ourselves an extra morning recess before the morning even started. And now, 7 years later, that morning recess remains as a regular part of every school day. Of course, this isn't anything revolutionary, but it shows that even early on, the class of 2016 was challenging the world around it. Having great ideas, however, isn't enough to innovate. The class of 2016's inventiveness also stems from its incredible courage to explore the unknown and try new things. Just look at a few highlights from our senior year. This April, 5 seniors performed in Gilman's spring musical, The Addams Family, all of whom had no prior musical experience. 3 seniors, Jeremy Booth, Gus Meny, and Jake Goodwin, lended lead roles, while Tommy Morey and Chris Wolf helped put on the show that I doubt any of us will forget.
Okay, so I see on Twitter, and I'm going to say take a grain. This is going to be taken with a huge grain of salt, but allegedly the manifesto has been leaked. But I've seen this time and time again where people just post something and claim it's real. So Give me a second. I'm taking the screenshots, and I'm trying to read the comments to see if, they're saying this is BS or not. But I will just show it just so we can look at it.
How about this winter when Kevin Wang delivered his senior speech? As Kevin moved to America and joined our class in 9th grade, English isn't his first language. But that didn't stop him from delivering a both hilarious and thought-provoking speech about his transition to the United States. How about Ray Saunders leading Gilman's first-year cybersecurity team? Even competing against hundreds of veteran teams, the Gilman squad managed to advance to the state and then regional championships. All of these endeavors took a huge amount of courage. They demonstrate that the class of 2016 truly has the fearlessness to explore new things and the obvious ability to excel. But as inventive as the class of 2016 is, our class was able to explore the new while also preserving the old. Just look back at the most significant and magical night of our senior year, the 100th annual Gilman-McDonough football game. After hundreds of hours of preparation, our seniors led the Gilman team to victory. Competing in the second oldest football rivalry in the state of Maryland, however, they represented not just this year's team, but Gilman as an institution and all the alumni that preceded them. So the class of 2016 not only explored new frontiers, but also maintained Gilman's most important traditions. I think this combination of preservation and exploration is what Gilman is all about. Gilman maintains its classic core values by cultivating...
Actually, no, they're saying this is fake, which actually doesn't surprise me, because it was supposedly written out, and this is typed out, and it's clearly more than four. It's because they said 3 pages, and this is like 4 pages, so it's fake. Dang it. Because I'm surprised. There's been quite a stuff released, photo of the alleged gun, photo of, the fake driver's license. I do have another mugshot, though, as well, that will show here. I'm just looking, see if there's anything else. Okay, let's look at the new mugshot, because it's a little bit different. Oh, let's see here. Oh, I know. I was, you know what? Since you mentioned that, let's throw that up there real quick. Let's do a side by side. Yeah, he does. Is this James Franco? Yeah, that's James Franco right there. So, I mean, it's eerily. No, there's some other ones. That's probably not the best one. I mean, that's close. He's got his mouth open, but yeah, the eyebrows, the hair, the curly hair. If he wasn't had this wide smile. But yeah, he does. He looks a lot like James Franco. It's kind of eerie. Let's see. Do I have another one? He's not smiling. There's that one. But yeah, oh, let's see. No, because I don't think this is this his photo? I think that is his photo. Maybe. But yeah, he does. He looks a lot like James Franco. Let's see. Where did I put that? I'm in the wrong one. So yeah, I think we've all seen that. It kind of reminds me of Brian Koberger, with the kind of the turtleneck vest or whatever they call it. There. See if there's anything else here. I mean, there's still a lot. Oh, I didn't even go over the latest. I just realized I didn't click on the latest. And multiple people allegedly releasing a manifesto. I think this is all baloney. Sorry guys, I'll get to chat here in just a second. Okay. Let's get to chat, and well, we're reading chat here. For anybody that kind of missed the earlier parts, let me
Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a
suspect
So new
They are led with the ID
future, a writing that is generally known as Ted Kaczynski's Manifesto. The account posted a review that states, "It's easy to quickly and thoughtless write this off as the manifesto
just
of
a little bit about his background
in
while
order
we
to avoid
go over
facing
this.
some of the uncomfortable
So let me
problems it identifies.
go up a little bit, read chat
But it's
here
simply
again. Thank you
impossible
to everybody
ignore how
taking the
prescient
time out
many
of their
his
day
predictions
here.
about modern society turned out.
Number
Number 3, born in Baltimore and lived in Hawaii. According to a LinkedIn profile, Mangione was most recently an employee of a Santa Monica, California .tech firm that offers a buying and selling platform for cars.
Oh, yeah, there was one more thing. Oh, I just forgot. Someone mentioned the back thing, and I did grab that. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, let's read this real quick. Maybe this... I know there was allegedly some grandparents that may have fell victim to maybe this whole healthcare system. I'm not sure. Obviously, that's something I'm sure a lot of people will look into. But so according to this tweet, again, take it with a grain of salt, because obviously with tweets, you know, unless there's sources that are obviously placed in these, you got to take it with a grain of salt. But in this, it says Jack Mack spoke with a source that had a lot of friends that went to high school with Luigi Mangione. What keeps coming up is a back surgery that changed everything for him, and he went absolutely crazy. And we can see that he's definitely got some major hardware placed, God, it looks like into his lower spine there, which, man, that does not look fun. As someone who has multiple surgeries, I've got a lot of metal in me. I broke my hip, so I have, you know, basically pins, screws, a rod that goes from my hip down to my knee. And anyway, it's not fun, especially when it gets cold, because then that metal gets cold and it starts to affect you, and it sucks. So it says, checks out with the Goodreads history and the x-ray in his header. Spoke with the source that had a lot of friends that went to high school with Luigi Mangione. What keeps coming up is a back. Oh, and I wish I would have clicked on that to see what that meant, but I'm assuming what keeps coming up is a back surgery. I'm assuming is what was going to be the next word. And maybe he was denied certain maybe medication, checkups, whatever, was that the catalyst? Who knows? It'd be interesting to know when this actually happened. So let me read chat while I just play his background. And it's just a shame. This guy, man, clearly smart. Could have done a lot for the world, with all the stuff that he was involved with. What a shame. Truly.
His profile lists Honolulu, Hawaii as his location.
Tibia full of pins.
Mangione had learned to
tough.
code in high school and helped start a club at Penn for people interested in gaming and game design,
I do.
according to a 2018 story in Penn Today, a campus publication. University of Pennsylvania spokesperson confirmed Mr. Mangione graduated in 2020.
Yeah,
with
sometimes
both a
it does.
bachelor's
That's
degree
true.
in computer science and a master's degree in computer and information science. Number 2, Mangione was an
sorry
AI
to hear that,
expert.
Brian.
Mangione's major area of study at Penn was artificial intelligence, according to his LinkedIn profile. His minor was mathematics.
Oh.
His experience also lists jobs as an artificial intelligence.
Not to make it sound like I've had worse than anybody else here, but yeah, I had to do a spinal tap. That was one of the worst experiences ever. But yeah, that's no fun. I'm sorry, Brian.
Teaching assistant for gifted high school students. Mangione also worked as an intern for a company that fixed UI bugs in the popular video game Civilization 6. He worked there for over 1 year, according to this bio.
Thank you, Jen.
Number 1. He was the valedictorian in 2016. Mangione attended Gilman, the private all-boys school in Baltimore, from 2012 to 2016, the school has confirmed. According to his profile on LinkedIn, he graduated as valedictorian. After high school, he received an undergraduate degree and
I
a
did
Master's
not.
of Science from the University of Pennsylvania. Here's a short clip from Mangione speaking as the valedictorian.
Yeah, part by
I'm
on it.
speaking to you all today on behalf of the Gilman class of 2016. When I started writing the speech, I talked with several students and teachers and asked how they would describe the class of 2016. Many of the students characterized our class.
Yes, Greyhound is, oh man, I hate to talk bad, but yeah, they are terrible. And that happened in my experience. Yes, 2 people ended up getting left in the middle of nowhere at nighttime. Again, I don't want to get sidetracked, but again, I'll have to maybe do like a members live and talk about my Greyhound experience. You just couldn't make this shit up. It was just when I think things couldn't get any worse, it just ramped up. The further we got along in our trip, I was blown away. I'll just end with this. I saw a grown man, a tough. If you saw this guy walking, in an alley, you would go the other way. This is the kind of guy, very scary dude. I sat next to him towards the end, and this guy, again, for Greyhound, I watched a grown man cry. I mean, break down because of just being on this bus and the travels. It was nuts. Absolutely just crazy. So let me just check to see if there's anything else. Anybody know in the chat if there's any, kind of major highlights that you'd want us to touch on before we finish up here? We started at 6. We've kind of gone longer than usual. Man, that went by fast. People are saying that James Franco could play as him, and here's a good side by side between the two. Let me just show this. Yeah, it is uncanny between those two. It's kind of creepy. Is it this one? Yep, it's this one, and there's one where he's smiling. Or is it? Yeah. Here we go. Let me blow this up a little bit. Yeah, I mean that is creepy. That is creepy. Yeah, they are. Yeah, and just the locations of them too. Yeah. I dreaded every time we were gonna arrive at a Greyhound hub, because they just seemed to get worse and worse, and it was truly terrible. So anyway, yeah, so I'm going to probably do a short video tomorrow. I may do another live as well. Mods, of course, I'll let you know. See, more people are posting this manifesto, but I don't want to show this if this isn't the right thing. And it's, it's supposed to be 3 pages long. This is like 4. I mean, this is I don't know if this is true. I'll have to look at it. You can easily find it on Twitter if you're interested. I don't think it's the real thing. Oh, there's a video of him actually with the McDonald's instead of just a picture. Isn't that just so ironic? What a shame. Really, what a shame. All that education, money. This guy could have changed the world, in a small way with, the education he had. And unfortunately turned to this, and it's tragic. And then the other thing, I just to add a little levity, because they had the Monopoly money, and somebody mentioned they wonder if he kept the get out of jail free card with him, and then tried to use that when the cops came. I mean, that would be kind of funny if he did do that. Kept a hold of that card, but anyway. In this day and age with cameras everywhere, there's, oh, there's more pictures of him. Doesn't look too happy, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I should say. You kill somebody in cold blood, irregardless of he believed he was, trying to do the right thing, but yeah. Oh, I guess I better be quite careful with scrolling through Twitter. Who knows what I might flip through, since Elon Musk doesn't have a filter on this stuff. But anyway, thank you to everybody being in here. God, I can't believe we've been on here for almost 2 hours. I usually just go an hour and a half. I try to make it easy for anybody that may rewatch the video. But again, I will do a kind of a short video tomorrow, just kind of highlights and whatever new stuff comes out. I know there's some connections with, I think, his brother or cousin that's, affiliated with some politicians or something like that. I was kind of at the doctor's when all this broke, so I'm playing catch up. So yeah, what a shame. All that money spent into giving him a proper education, and it yeah, I don't know why I'm sorry, Brian, that Nightbot's on the attack here. We might need to turn Nightbot off. What the hell is going on? Oh yeah, just be careful with all caps. We try not to do all caps on there. So with that, of course, I always just want to shout out my wonderful mods who come in and help out the chat and keep this a welcoming community. So thank you so much, D. And I know Sensei had to leave. So it's really been D and Copper Horse. So thank you so much. You guys are amazing. God bless you. And we're definitely going to try to do something for you guys. Hopefully, probably next week when we get to all that. So thank you so much. Again, we'll have more. I may do a live tomorrow, but I'm going to try to focus on a short video. But again, if you'd like to support this channel, there are plenty of ways. Patreon membership. I just put out some stuff for both of those Patreons and members. And, we do like to help out with the missing. Unfortunately, it's winter time, but we're going to do a rewind before the end of the year because we did some stuff that I'm very proud of, with the cold case, which I think is hopefully going to finalize next year, which is a missing person. And anyway, for those that have been with me, know what I'm talking about. Aiden Clune, a case that I've been involved with. So with that, again, shout out to my mods and, of course, my members who support this channel, because without you, it keeps the wheels moving. So God bless you, and to everybody taking the time to watch the show. So again, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Monday, Tuesday, wherever you're at. Please be safe. Happy holidays for all those that celebrate it. And again, we'll have a video out tomorrow, and I may do a live, of course, and I'll let my mods know beforehand. It'll probably be the same time, somewhere around 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, sometimes Nightbot gets on a little tangent. Unfortunately, for the most part, Nightbot's good, but I don't know. It starts acting weird sometimes, so I do apologize. Thank you so much, Kim Watts. I'd shout out everybody if I could. Be here all night saying goodbyes. With that, we'll play an outro, and we will be back likely tomorrow. God bless you guys, and see you tomorrow.